I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I have a PhD in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists, and as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have my Victober wrap-up for you. That's right, Victober 2025, or Victober 10, is officially over. So this was the 10th anniversary of Victober, and I was very honored to be asked to be one of the 10 co-hosts. So we had 10 challenges with tiers for like how many challenges you completed. And I am happy to say that I reached the top tier, Dracula level, completing all 10 challenges. And I read a total of 10 works, one per challenge, although a lot of them counted for multiple challenges. So here's my little bingo card that I'm super happy with. And it's all filled out and it's just super cute. So we are going to go through what I read and I will talk about which challenges they fit with as we go. Let's jump in. So first up is Mistress and Maid by Dinah Mullet Craig. This is the story of three sisters, Joanna, Selena, and Hilary Leaf, as they hire and train their new maid, Elizabeth Hand. This actually counted for 5 challenges. So the one that it is on the bingo board for is Hannah's challenge, which was to read a work about education. And a lot of this, especially the first half of the book, is about the youngest sister, Hilary, educating the maid, Elizabeth. It also counted for Kate's challenge of reading a work involving friendship. This obviously had the friendship between particularly Hilary and Elizabeth. It counted for Marissa's challenge of reading a work where somebody experiences a change in class status, and we had several changes in class status. It counted for my challenge of reading a work by an underrated woman writer. And it counted for Roz's challenge of empire spotting. There were a lot of mentions of empire in here. Particularly one of the characters, Mr. Leon, actually goes to India to teach Hindustani to the son of a businessman, and he is hoping to make his fortune while he is over there so that he can then come back and marry Hilary. So I loved this. It was like a sleeper hit. I did not expect to like it this much. I gave it 5 stars. I do have a whole review if you want to hear more about it. Next up is The Light Princess by George MacDonald. This is a fairy tale about a princess who is cursed at birth to have no gravity, meaning both gravity in like the physical sense of staying on the ground, but also in the sense of emotional gravity and being able to take things seriously. This was a lovely little fairy tale, and I really enjoyed it. It counted for 2 challenges: Roy's challenge to read a work of Victorian fantasy, and Katie's challenge of reading not a novel. It is basically a short story, a fairy tale, and it actually turns out it was a piece of a longer published work that just frequently gets published on its own, which is very interesting. But yeah, I really enjoyed this as well. I gave it 4.5 stars. I can't wait to read this to my future children, like who will hopefully exist one day, because I would love to have like a beautifully illustrated edition of this. And I think that would just, like, I don't know. Thinking about reading that to my hypothetical future children kind of gets me teary-eyed because it was a really beautiful story. I did not expect it to be so beautiful. Another kind of sleeper hit. Next up, I went to The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. So it's more Sherlock Holmes short stories, including probably the most famous of the short stories, probably tied with Scandal in Bohemia, The Final Problem, which features the villainous Professor Moriarty. Counted for 3 challenges. Kate's challenge of a work about friendship. Obviously, Holmes and Watson are like the Victorian friendship that you kind of immediately think of. Katie's challenge of not a novel, because they are short stories, and Roz's challenge of empire spotting. There was empire all over the place in these, and I kind of knew there would be. It's why it's on the spot for Roz's challenge in the bingo board, because I mean, it was all over the place. We had convicts being transferred to Australia. We had fortunes being made in gold mines in Africa. We had the Indian Mutiny. We had Chinese tea trade. We had tobacco being kept in the tip of a Persian slipper. We had a mongoose named Teddy, who I'm obsessed with. Like, seriously, I think about him a lot. I'm like, oh my God, Teddy the mongoose. Oh. So yeah, so much empire in this. And like, that's not even half of them. I kind of lost count after a while. Like at first I was like highlighting them because I have it on Kindle. And then after a certain point I was like, there's just so many. There's so many references to empire here. So I love these. I love Sherlock Holmes in general. Especially the short stories are always really big hits with me. So I gave this collection 5 stars. I had read a few of them before, but actually not as many as I was expecting. Next up, I read an article from Blackwood's Edinburgh magazine titled Miss Austen and Miss Mitford, written by Margaret Oliphant. And this is an article looking at Jane Austen and Mary Russell Mitford, who was another early 19th century author. This counted for 4 challenges. Catherine's challenge, which is what it's on the bingo board for, to read a work connected to Jane Austen. Obviously, this is literary criticism and biography of Jane Austen, as well as a review of her nephew's biography of her. Katie's challenge of not a novel, because it is an article. My challenge, written by an underrated woman writer. And Roz's challenge, unexpected empire mention, because Cassandra Austen, Jane's sister, was engaged to a guy who went off to the West Indies hoping to make some money, and he died. And yeah, Oliphant talked about that. I don't rate articles, really. I enjoyed it. I did not always agree with her. You can see my second Victober vlog. I talk about it kind of in more detail. I don't think that she read the romance in Pride and Prejudice properly. And I think she's overly dismissive of most of the other books. She does really like Emma, though, which is completely, like, correct. that is correct. But yeah. So, and I'm interested to check out Mary Russell Mitford. I didn't know anything about her. So, and I did kind of skim that part, I'll be honest, because, like, that's not what I was there for. But I am interested to check her out now. Next up, I went over to some Victorian drama with Salome by Oscar Wilde. So this is a play retelling the biblical story of the beheading of John the Baptist. And it counted for 2 challenges. Jess's challenge to read a work that is set in a different era. This is historical fiction set in the biblical times. And Katie's challenge of not a novel, because it is a play. I gave this 3 stars. It was kind of weird. I think it would probably be amazing performed. I would love to see this performed, especially since like a big part of it is Salome's dance. So if you're unfamiliar with the story, we've got King Herod, who has John the Baptist imprisoned, and then we've got Herod's wife, who John the Baptist has been like speaking against, and we have her daughter, Salome. And Herod asks Salome to dance for him. And if she does this, he will give her anything she asks for, up to half of his kingdom. So she does this dance and then asks for John the Baptist's head on a silver platter. So yeah, that's fun. So the dance is like a really major component of this story. And obviously I'm reading it, like I'm not seeing the dance. It's just like, she does the dance. And I'm like, well, okay. I would love to see it performed. There were some interesting stage directions, particularly toward the end, about like having the theater go into darkness with people still speaking, and then like one beam of light coming down onto Salome at the very end. Very, like, I want to see it performed. But, like, I guess I liked it, but like didn't love it or even like really like it. I was just like, yes, okay, this was a interesting play. I might feel differently if I see it performed, but I don't know anybody who is performing this ever. I think I have a better chance of getting to see The Importance of Being Earnest. So yeah, I give this 3 stars. I did actually have a physical copy of this in this collection of The Importance of Being Earnest and other plays, and I just forgot to hold it up. But I'm like, I could refilm it and hold it up or not. And I think I'm gonna go with or not. So, Salome. Next up was our group read, Hester by Margaret Oliphant. This was a reread for me, the only reread of the whole month. And wow. So this is the story of 2 women, the kind of matriarch of the family, Catherine Vernon, who saved the family's bank when she was a younger woman and then kind of took over running it, and Hester, a young teenage girl who is the daughter of the man who was supposed to be running the bank when Catherine had to go in and save it because he ran off after screwing up spectacularly. And these 2 have a lot of tension between them. For 5 challenges, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 challenges. So I used it on the bingo board for Marissa's challenge of a work that has a change in social class. So particularly I am thinking about Mrs. John, Hester's mother, who comes very much down in social class when her husband, you know, screws up spectacularly. But we do have several other characters who change social status, but talking about it would be a spoiler, and I don't want to spoil it because this is really good. It also counted for Kate's challenge of a work with friendship. There are several friendships in here. Most notably to me is Hester's friendship with Captain Morgan and Mrs. Morgan. I count this for Catherine's challenge of reading a work related to Jane Austen somehow. I see this as very much inspired by Jane Austen. There are scholars who kind of see Oliphant in general as a link between Jane Austen and George Eliot. Like she's like kind of the almost the missing link between the 2, how we get from realism here to realism there. It counted for my challenge of underrated woman writer. And we had empire spotting in this, particularly with mentions of muslin dresses. Roz had a whole video about like different things to do with empire, and one of those is a lot of the fabrics, including muslin. So I adored this. When I read it last, it was 4 stars, but I feel like I didn't get a chance to like sink into it as I did this time, and this was 5 stars. This was phenomenal. I think it's gonna give Miss Marchbanks a run for its money for favorite Oliphant book and one of my top Victorian novels in general. I have to reread Miss Marchbanks to see. But yeah, I'm so happy that this was the group read and that I got to reread it because it was just phenomenal. We're going back to Oscar Wilde with An Ideal Husband, and I'm remembering to hold this up this time. So this is, what is this? What are these people's names? I don't remember these people's names. That's terrible. I didn't read this that long ago. Okay, so we've got Sir Robert Chiltern, who is apparently the Undersecretary for Foreign Affairs, according to the cast list. And he is being blackmailed by Mrs. Cheveley? From something to do with his past. She is trying to get him to... Can you stop chewing on my computer? Thank you. She is trying to get him to speak in favor of a certain bill or whatever that he is very opposed to. And it ends up being this whole big series of misunderstandings between him and his wife and their friend somebody, Lord Goring. This counted for Kate's challenge about featuring friendship. The friendship between Sir Robert, his wife, Lady Chiltern, and Lord Goring is a very important aspect of this book. Obviously Katie's challenge, because again, it's a play, not a novel. And then Roz's challenge, we had empire spotting. So the thing that Mrs. Cheveley is blackmailing Sir Robert about has to do with the purchasing of the Suez Canal. And she's trying to get him to do some other purchasing of a canal, like involved with some other purchasing of a canal. And that's like the extent of my knowledge about this stuff. But yes, I was like, that's empire. So I really enjoyed this. I felt like it had, like I could visualize it better than some of his others because it had really detailed stage directions. And I gave it 4 stars. Again, I do really want to see it performed. Next up was The Rich Husband by Charlotte Riddle. This counted for 4 challenges. The first was Melena's challenge, which was to spin a color wheel and read a book featuring that color. I got gold. The cover that I am using here for The Rich Husband has the little gold detailing. It also counted for Marissa's challenge about change in social status. There were so many changes in social status to so many people in this book. It counted for my challenge of underrated Victorian woman writer, and it counted for Roz's empire spotting because we had plenty of empire. We had mentions again of muslin and also calico. Somebody went to Canada. Multiple people went to India and Africa and came back with like huge fortunes. So I have a whole review of this as well. This is a story of the descendants of the Ridsdale sisters who are like kind of cursed to screw up their romantic relationships and then lead miserable lives. We're mainly following Judith, who is the daughter of one of these sisters, as she enters a marriage for money. Again, I have a whole review. I liked it. I think there's a lot really interesting academically here, and even just for somebody who's interested in certain aspects of Victorian literature. But I don't think it's like a must read. I gave it a 3.5 stars. Next up, I picked up Mr. Harrison's Confessions by Elizabeth Gaskell, the story of a new doctor coming into town and all of the ladies kind of going crazy, wanting him to marry either them or their daughters. And he is in love with one lady who is like the only one not being thrown at him. And it involves gossip and all that. So this counted for 3 challenges. Kate's challenge about friendship. So this is actually has a frame narrative of Mr. Harrison telling the story of how he met his wife to his friend. Do we have a name for the friend? Charles. But we also have the friendship between, what is his name? So Mr. Harrison and this older, more established doctor that he becomes a partner with. So there is a friendship between them as well. It counts for Katie's challenge of not a novel because it is a novella. And I feel like it counts for Catherine's challenge of something connected to Jane Austen because there is a very Jane Austen feel about some of the shenanigans going on in here and some of the kind of social satire. I really liked this. I gave this 4 stars. It was a lot of fun and a very like nice, easy, mostly light except for one random death scene that I was like, why? Why was that here? That didn't need to be here. Other than that, like a very light, nice read. And then the final book that I read was The Vicar of Wrexhill by Frances Milton Trollope. This is the story of the Mowbray family. Their father dies and he unexpectedly leaves all of his money to his wife. Enter the Vicar of Wrexhill, Mr. Cartwright, the new vicar who has evangelical leanings and is a schemer. and trying to get in with the Mowbrys to marry Mrs. Mowbray and take control of the money. Counted for 3 challenges. Kate's challenge featuring friendship. There were several friendships in this between Helen Mowbray, the eldest daughter, and the Mowbray's ward, Rosalind, and then also friendships between Rosalind and Miss Cartwright, Miss Henrietta Cartwright, who is the daughter of the Vicar of Wrexhill. It counted for my challenge of underrated woman writer, and it counted for Roz's challenge of empire spotting. We had more characters coming from India, and we also had mention of the slave trade. So this is a very early Victorian work, 1837, and the slave trade would have only just been abolished a few years prior. I really enjoyed this. It is very harsh on evangelicalism. I was like, whoa. I really want to know what was going on in the 30s to cause this reaction. But I was very invested in this. I enjoyed the characters a lot, and I can't wait to read more from Trollope, from Frances Milton Trollope, the mother of Anthony Trollope, obviously. So yeah, I love this. I gave it 4 stars. So that is my Victober wrap up. I want to thank, first of all of the other 9 co-hosts for making this such a wonderful Victober. I specifically want to thank Kate, Katie, Roz, and Marissa for inviting me to be one of the co-hosts this year. It has been an honor and honestly one of the highlights of my year, like literally second only to finishing my degree. And I want to thank everybody that participated, because that's what really makes Victober like this amazing fun thing, is everybody making the videos and the conversations over on Discord and being able to talk with people about these different Victorian books. Because of course I can read Victorian literature year round, anyone can, and I study it obviously, but having this community to interact with about it is just so wonderful, and I love it. And Victober's amazing, and I'm sad that it's over, and I can't wait for Victober of next year. So let me know down in the comments, have you read any of the books I talked about? What did you think of them? What did you read for Victober? What were some of your favorites or least favorites? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.